The storms killed 1,000 people. My eagle knew someone survived. I never meant to become the last living resident of Haven Point Colony. That wasn't exactly in the job description when I signed up as a wildlife rehabilitation specialist. But life has a way of rewriting your plans, especially on a planet where the storms have a mind of their own. Storm? Yeah, I know, not the most creative name for an eagle, perches on the reinforced gauntlet of my Atmo suit, his golden-brown feathers crackling with residual static. He's just returned from his morning patrol, which means I have about 40 minutes before the next electrical surge hits. His piercing eyes meet mine, and he lets out a low chirp that echoes through the empty colony center. "I know, buddy," I mutter, reaching up with my free hand to gentle the feathers around his neck. Another exciting day in paradise. 6 months ago, Storm and I watched the last evacuation ships punch through Haven Point's perpetually angry sky. We weren't supposed to still be here. I wasn't supposed to be watching the shield generator's power levels drop a little lower each week. And Storm definitely wasn't supposed to be my only companion on a planet that's trying its best to kill us both. The thing they don't tell you about being the last person alive in a failed colony is how quiet it gets. Not silent, never silent, not with the constant low rumble of atmospheric discharge and the way the wind howls through the empty hab units. But human quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you talk to yourself, to your eagle, to the ghosts of 1,000 people who used to call this place home. I check my wrist display as I walk Storm back to the Wildlife Center, my home now, since it has the strongest backup generators. The readout shows what I already know from the way Storm's feathers are bristling. We've got a Class 4 surge building in the magnetic peaks to the north. The same peaks that claimed our first casualty, back when we still thought we could predict these storms. Storm shifts on my arm, his weight familiar and comforting even through the insulated gauntlet. He's watching the peaks too, probably seeing things my instruments won't pick up for another 10 minutes. That's why he's still alive, why we're both still alive. He can sense the electrical patterns in ways our best tech can't match. "Ready for breakfast?" I ask, punching in the access code to the center's main door. The reinforced panels slide open with a hydraulic hiss that still sounds too loud in the morning gloom. I know, same as yesterday, synthesized rabbit, living the dream. Storm lets out another chirp, but this time it's different. Sharp, urgent, I freeze in the doorway, years of working with him kicking in. That's his warning call. "What is it?" I turn, following his gaze back toward the peaks. The storm front is building faster than usual, purplish-black clouds roiling against the magnetic field lines. But that's not what Storm's watching. He launches from my arm without warning, powerful wings carrying him straight toward the observation deck that rings the colony's perimeter. I sprint after him, my heart suddenly pounding. He only does this when, there on the deck railing, something fluttering in the pre-storm wind. I grab it just as the first warning sirens start to wail. It's a piece of fabric, torn and scorched at the edges. The material is unmistakable, the same thermal weave as my own Atmo suit. But this isn't from my suit. This is from someone else's. Storm circles overhead, screaming now as I turn the fabric over in my trembling hands. There's a name tag, partially melted but still legible. Marcus Chen, Atmospheric Research. The bottom drops out of my stomach. Marcus. The same Marcus who led the final evacuation, who promised to come back for me in Storm once the ships were safely away. The Marcus I watched disappear into the storm when his shuttle's engines failed. I thought he was dead. Everyone was supposed to be dead. Storm lands beside me on the railing, his talons leaving little scratch marks in the metal. He pecks at the fabric, then looks toward the peaks again. There's something in his posture, an urgency I haven't seen in months. "He's alive," I whisper, but I already know the answer. Storm has never been wrong about these things. Marcus is out there. The sirens are getting louder. We have maybe 5 minutes before this surge hits. I should get inside, run my normal storm protocols, wait it out like I have 100 times before. Instead, I find myself reaching for my emergency pack, the one I keep by the door for quick evacuations. Storm follows my movement, shifting from talon to talon like he does when he's agitated. "You know where he is, don't you?" Another sharp cry. The clouds are almost on us now, the air thick with electrical potential. I should go inside. I should stick to the routine that's kept us alive for 6 months. But Storm is already launching himself toward the peaks, and I'm running back to grab my backup power cell for the suit. Because for the first time since the evacuation, we're not alone. And I'm about to break every survival rule I've made to find out why. The first rule of surviving Haven Point storms is simple: never go out during a surge. The second rule is even simpler: if you break the first rule, you die. I'm breaking both rules before I even clear the colony perimeter. My atmosuit's shields crackle as I run, following Storm's distinctive silhouette against the darkening sky. The emergency pack bounces against my back, filled with spare power cells and emergency rations. Probably not enough for a real rescue mission, but more than I can afford to lose if I'm wrong about this. You better be right about this, I call to Storm, though the rising wind tears the words away. He banks left, leading me toward a maintenance access path I'd mapped during clearer weather. Smart bird, the metal walkway is grounded, safer than the open ground where lightning flowers bloom with every strike. The first bolt hits as I reach the path, close enough that my suit's sensors scream in protest. The flash burns an afterimage into my retinas. Storm's wings outlined in purple-white brilliance, the peaks ahead looking like broken teeth against the roiling clouds. My wrist display is going crazy, numbers spinning as the electromagnetic interference builds. In about 30 seconds, it'll be useless, just like every other piece of tech we've tried to use during a surge. Everything except Storm's uncanny ability to read the electrical patterns in the air. He circles back, flying low enough that I can see his feathers standing on end. Another warning. I dive for the minimal cover of an overhanging rock just as the second bolt turns the path behind me into molten metal. Great, I mutter, pressing myself against the stone. This is fine, totally normal Tuesday morning. The joke falls flat in the electric air. I used to be funnier, I think, back when I had an actual audience. Back when making light of death wasn't quite so personal. Storm lands beside me, sheltering under the same overhang. His presence is reassuring, even as the storm rages around us. He's never led me wrong, not once since I rehabilitated him after finding him with a broken wing 2 years ago. If he thinks Marcus is out here, the thought of Marcus sends an unexpected surge of anger through me. 6 months. 6 months of silence, of assuming he died in that shuttle crash. 6 months of replaying his last words over the colony comm. I'll come back for you, Rita, I promise. Just keep the wildlife center running until we can evacuate the rest. Some promise, some rescue. Storm suddenly goes rigid beside me, head cocked to one side. I know that pose, he's spotted something. Following his gaze, I catch a flicker of movement through the storm haze. Something moving with purpose, ducking between the rocky outcrops ahead. A figure in an Atmo suit. Marcus, I whisper, but Storm is already launching himself back into the air, fighting the wind to stay on target. I push off from the rock, keeping low as I sprint between patches of cover. The figure disappears into what looks like a cave mouth, barely visible through the storm. Storm circles it once, then lands on a boulder near the entrance. His posture is tense but not alarmed. Whatever's in there, he doesn't consider it an immediate threat. I reach the cave just as another lightning bolt splits the sky. Inside, my suit's lights reveal rough stone walls covered in something that makes me stop short. Equations. Hundreds of them scratched into the rock with what looks like a mineral stylus. Weather patterns, electromagnetic field calculations, storm prediction models. Oh my God, I breathe, reaching out to touch one of the formulas. You've been studying them. Hello, Rita. I spin around, heart hammering. There, in the shadows at the back of the cave, a figure rises from behind a makeshift workstation. The Atmo suit is scorched and patched, but I recognize the way he moves. Would recognize it anywhere. Marcus Chen, looking very much alive and very much like he's been expecting me. Storm lands between us, and for a moment nobody moves. The storm rages outside, but in here, time seems to stop. 6 months of grief and anger and loneliness crash over me like a wave. You're alive, I say, and my voice comes out surprisingly steady. You've been alive this whole time. He takes a step forward, hands raised like he's approaching a spooked animal. I can explain. Explain, the steadiness cracks. Explain what? How you left us. How you've been hiding out here while I thought you were dead. Rita, please, I wasn't hiding. I was trying to understand. He gestures at the equations covering the walls. The storms, They're not random. They're trying to tell us something. I stare at him, trying to process what he's saying. Outside, lightning illuminates the cave mouth in strobing bursts. Storm shuffles his feet, watching us both with those intelligent eyes. Tell us something, I repeat. They killed 1,000 people, Marcus. What could they possibly have to tell us that's worth? I stop as my eyes catch a particular sequence of numbers on the wall. A pattern I've seen before, but not in Storm data. That's a communication protocol, I say slowly. Why are you mapping communication protocols against Storm patterns? Marcus's face, visible now through his scratched helmet, shows equal parts relief and worry. Because someone's been sending us messages, he says, through the storms themselves, and 3 days ago they started responding when I wrote back. The silence that follows Marcus's words is broken only by the storm outside, and Storm's talons clicking against stone as he shifts position. I stare at the equations again, seeing them with new eyes. They're not just calculations, they're translations. That's impossible, I say, but even as the words leave my mouth, I'm remembering things. The strange regularity of some storm patterns. The way certain surges seem to circle the colony like they were searching for something. The odd electrical signatures that never quite matched our atmospheric models. 6 months ago, I thought the same thing. Marcus moves to one wall, pointing to a particular sequence. But look at this pattern. It repeats every 17 hours with minor variations. Natural storms don't do that, Rita. They don't pulse in prime numbers. I step closer, trying to ignore how my heart jumps when his arm brushes mine. 6 months of anger doesn't erase 2 years of whatever we were before the evacuation. Even if you're right, I say, forcing myself to focus on the numbers. Why didn't you tell me? I was right there in the colony, thinking you were dead, and you were up here playing mathematician. Storm lets out a warning screech before Marcus can answer. We both turn to see purple-white energy crawling across the cave mouth like electric vines. Get back! Marcus grabs my arm, pulling me deeper into the cave. Storm follows, wings half spread in agitation. It's responding. What's responding? I try to pull away, but his grip is firm. Marcus, what did you do? The energy patterns at the cave entrance are like nothing I've seen in 6 months of storm watching. They move with purpose, forming and reforming into geometric shapes that hurt my eyes to look at. I've been sending patterns back, Marcus says, his voice tight with excitement or fear, maybe both, using electromagnetic pulses from modified shield generator parts. 3 days ago, they started answering, but never like this, never so direct. The patterns are spreading now, covering the cave walls like luminous ivy. My suit sensors are going haywire, but the energy isn't attacking us. If anything, it seems to be creating a perimeter, sealing us in, or sealing something else out. Storm launches himself at Marcus without warning, knocking him away from me just as a bolt of energy shoots through where we were standing. It hits the equations on the far wall, and suddenly the scratched numbers are glowing, rearranging themselves before our eyes. They're not messages, I whisper, watching symbols I recognize transform into something alien yet mathematically perfect. They're a key, a translation key. Marcus scrambles to his feet, eyes wide behind his faceplate. Rita, your eagle, how did it know? I correct automatically, reaching for Storm as he lands beside me. And he's always known things about the storms that we don't. Haven't you wondered why he's the only wildlife that survived? Why he can predict surges before our best equipment? The glowing symbols are moving faster now, flowing like electric mercury across the stone. They're forming into distinct patterns, not quite words, but definitely communication. They've been watching us, Marcus says softly. All this time trying to find a way to talk. The storms weren't attacks, they were attempts at contact. But they couldn't get the language right until you started writing back, I finish. But why? Why kill so many people just to try to talk? The symbols suddenly freeze, and a sound fills the cave. Not quite speech, not quite music, but something between the two. It makes Storm puff up his feathers and my teeth ache. And then, in a voice that sounds like harmonized electricity, it answers. Because your kind was killing something you couldn't see. We had to make you look up. My hand finds Marcus's arm as the cave fills with living light. Storm mantles his wings, not in fear, but in what looks almost like recognition. What were we killing? Marcus asks, but I already know. The patterns in Storm's feathers, the way he reads the electrical fields, the strange perfection of Haven Point's magnetic peaks. The planet's nervous system, I breathe. The electromagnetic field lines aren't just weather patterns. They're synapses, and we were setting up mining charges right through them. The voice comes again, accompanied by ripples of color through the luminous symbols. The one you call Storm knows. His kind evolved to read our tongues of light. We spoke through him, tried to warn you. But we didn't understand, Marcus says. Not until the storms forced us to pay attention, not until we had no choice but to see the patterns. I look at Storm, remembering all the times he'd tried to lead me toward the peaks, how he always seemed to be watching something in the air that I couldn't see. My faithful companion wasn't just predicting the storms, he was listening to them. So what happens now? I ask, addressing both Marcus and the presence filling the cave. Why reveal yourself after all this time? The symbols pulse once, bright enough to leave afterimages in my vision. Because now you understand the language of light, and we need your help. The cave has become a living thing, breathing with light and impossible geometries. Storm seems completely at ease with it, preening his feathers as if sitting in a room full of talking electricity is perfectly normal. Maybe for him it is. Our help! I look at Marcus, who's frantically typing notes into his suit's data pad. We nearly killed you. Why would you want our help? The symbols dance and reform, and that strange electric voice fills the air again. Because what comes next will destroy us both. Marcus stops typing. Both. What do you mean both? Instead of answering directly, the presence fills the cave with a three-dimensional light display. I recognize Haven Point from above, the colony looking tiny against the massive magnetic peaks. But there's something else, networks of glowing lines running through the planet's crust like luminous blood vessels. Your people called them mineral deposits, the voice explains. Energy reserves to be mined. They are our neural pathways. Our memories, our dreams. The display shifts, showing ships entering orbit. But not the small evacuation vessels we used. Massive mining crafts, planet crackers that could tear through the crust to reach valuable deposits. They're coming back, Marcus whispers. The corporation. They think the storms drove everyone out, so now they can mine without resistance. My stomach turns. How long? The symbols pulse once. 3 days. Their ships enter orbit in 3 days. I think of the mining charges we'd set up before the storms began. How they would have ripped through those beautiful networks of living energy. How they almost did before the storms forced us to stop. That's why you didn't just talk to us from the beginning, I say slowly. You needed us to understand what you are first. To see you as something alive. Yes, the voice carries a note of what might be sadness. Your kind learns through patterns, through struggle, through survival. We had to speak in ways you could not ignore. But 1,000 people died, I protest, though the anger feels different now, complicated by understanding. Many more would have died. The display shows the planet splitting, fracturing along mining lines. Including your own, the machines they will bring. They will not distinguish between our networks and your colony. Marcus steps forward, his face pale in the electric light. They're going to crack the planet whether there are people here or not. They'll kill everything, both our kinds. Storm launches himself from his perch, flying through the holographic display to land on my gauntlet. His feathers spark with borrowed energy, and for a moment, I swear I can see what he sees. Layers of beautiful, living electricity running through everything like threads of fate. What do you need us to do? I ask, and I feel Marcus turn to stare at me. Rita, wait, we should think about this. Think about what? I gesture at the cave's equations, the living light, the evidence of everything he's been studying for 6 months. You've been up here talking to them, learning their patterns. Are you saying we should just let the corporation kill them, kill us? No, but we need your technology, the voice interrupts. Your shields, your ways of focusing energy. We have power but not precision, knowledge but not tools. The display shifts again, showing the shield generator back at Haven Point. But it's different now, modified with additions I don't recognize. We can show you how to adapt your barriers, the voice continues. To turn them from shields into mirrors, to reflect our power back at those who would destroy us. A weapon, Marcus says. You want us to build you a weapon. A defense, I correct, watching Storm's reaction. He's calm, focused. A way to protect both our peoples. The symbols swirl faster. but it must be done before they arrive. And it will take both of you. The one who speaks numbers, a tendril of light touches Marcus's shoulder, and the one who listens to storms. I meet Marcus's eyes through our faceplates. 6 months of separation, of anger and grief and loneliness, seem to compress into this one moment of choice. We'd have to divert power from the colony's life support, he says quietly. Use parts we can't replace. If it doesn't work, we're dead anyway. I reach for his hand, and after a moment he takes it. But if it does work, we save something beautiful. Something worth protecting. Storm screams his agreement, the sound echoing off the cave walls and making the symbols pulse in harmony. 3 days, I say, turning back to the presence. Show us what to build. The cave erupts in diagrams and equations, patterns of light that describe impossible machines. As Marcus and I stand there, still holding hands, I realize something that should have been obvious from the start. The storms didn't just force us to look up, they forced us to look deeper. To see the lines connecting all living things, whether they're made of flesh or lightning or something in between. And now we have 3 days to prove we learned the right lessons from all that beautiful destruction. The walk back to Haven Point is tense, both from the lingering storm and the weight of what we've learned. Storm flies ahead of us, occasionally lighting up with residual energy from our cave encounter. Against the dark sky, he looks like a falling star in reverse. You kept your research notes in a cave, I say finally, breaking the uncomfortable silence between Marcus and me. Very classic mad scientist of you. He laughs, but it's strained. The electromagnetic interference was lowest there, plus it had a good view of the colony. He pauses. Of you. Don't, I stop walking, turning to face him. Don't tell me you were watching me this whole time. That just makes it worse. Rita. 6 months, Marcus. 6 months of talking to yourself, of thinking you're the last human being on this rock. Do you know what that does to a person? Storm circles back, landing on a nearby outcropping. Even through the suit's filters, I can smell the ozone charge in the air. Another storm building, always another storm. I couldn't risk it, Marcus says quietly. If I was wrong about the patterns, if I made contact and it went bad, I couldn't risk you too, not after watching that shuttle crash with the others inside. So you let me think you died in your own crash. The words come out sharper than I intend. Let me grieve you. While I tried to find a way to save us all, he gestures back toward the peaks. Look what we found, Rita. Look what we can do now. We, I repeat. Funny how it becomes, we when you need my help. Storm suddenly launches himself between us, wings spread wide. At first I think he's reacting to our argument, but then I see what he's noticed. The shield generator in the distance, its blue glow flickering. No, 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 Marcus mutters, already running. The power coupling shouldn't be failing this fast. I sprint after him, pushing down my anger for now. We can deal with our issues later. Maybe. If we survive the next 3 days, the generator looks worse up close. The main column is pulsing erratically, sending cascading ripples through the barrier overhead. As we reach the control panel, warning lights paint everything in angry red. The last surge must have damaged the primary coupling, Marcus says, fingers flying over the controls. We're losing containment. If the shield fails completely, we'll be dead before the corporation even arrives. He pulls up a diagnostic screen. I need to reverse the power flow, reroute it through the secondary systems. But the manual override is. Outside the shield, I finish. In the maintenance array. We both look at the array 30 meters away, fully exposed to the building storm. The distance might as well be 30 kilometers. Storm lands on the generator housing, and suddenly I remember what we just learned about him, about what he really is. He can guide me through, I say, already checking my suit's power levels. He can read the electrical patterns, show me the safe path. Rita, no, it's too dangerous. We can try to. To what? Reset the system remotely. We both know that won't work. I meet his eyes through our faceplates. You had your 6 months to work alone. Now we do this my way. Before he can argue, I turn to Storm. Ready for some actual thunder hunting, buddy. His response is to launch toward the maintenance array, finding a perch that gives him a clear view of the ground between us. His head moves in that distinctive way that tells me he's reading the invisible electrical currents in the air. Rita, wait. Marcus catches my arm. I'm sorry for before, for everything. I know, I pull free gently. Tell me again when I make it back. And Marcus, start modifying the secondary couplings. I'll only be able to hold the override for a few minutes. He nods, understanding the technical challenge, if not the forgiveness I'm not quite ready to offer. Be careful. Always am. I manage a small smile. Besides, I've got the best Storm guide on Haven Point. As if in response, Storm lets out a piercing cry. Show time. I step outside the shield's protection, and the world becomes electricity. The moment I clear the shield, my suit's sensors go haywire. The air itself feels charged, like I'm walking through invisible spider webs made of static electricity. Every hair on my body stands on end, even through the suit's insulation. Okay, Storm, I mutter, watching him intently. Show me the way. He responds immediately, adjusting his position on the maintenance array. I've done enough hunting with him to know his signals. A wing tilt means change direction, a head bob means stop, and a specific cry means move now. The first bolt hits 10 meters to my right, close enough that my suit's charge indicators spike into the red. But I don't run. Running blindly out here is a death sentence. Instead, I watch Storm waiting for his signal. Head tilt left. I shuffle carefully in that direction. Sharp cry. I lunge forward just as another bolt turns the ground behind me into glass. Real helpful tutorial this is turning out to be, I call to the sky, wondering if our new electric friends are watching. Really appreciate the gentle learning curve. Storm screams a warning, and I drop flat. Energy crackles overhead, forming those same geometric patterns we saw in the cave. They're trying to talk again, but there's no time to decipher the message. The shield is failing faster now. I can hear the generator's whine changing pitch. 20 meters to go. Storm guides me through a complex zigzag pattern that makes no sense to my eyes but matches some invisible safe path through the electrical field. 15 meters. 10. Then everything goes wrong. The shield flickers violently, sending out an electromagnetic pulse that blinds my suit's sensors. Storm screeches in alarm, taking flight as the maintenance array begins to spark with accumulated charge. No, I hear Marcus shout through my comm. Rita, the containment field is collapsing. Get out of there. But there's nowhere to go. Behind me is certain death in the storm. Ahead is the array, now crackling with deadly energy. Even Storm seems unable to find a safe path, wheeling overhead in agitated circles. That's when I see them again, the geometric patterns in the air, forming faster now. And this time, in my state of near panic, I understand what they're trying to tell me. It's not random, I whisper, remembering Marcus's notes. None of it is random. The electricity moves in patterns, natural patterns, like the ones in Storm's feathers, like the ones in my own nervous system. Without consciously deciding to, I raise my hands. The energy around the maintenance array responds, swirling like water around rocks in a stream. It's not attacking, it's flowing, dancing. Rita, Marcus's voice seems far away. What are you doing? Teaching them a new pattern, I reply, though I'm not sure how I know that's what's happening. I take a step forward, then another. The electricity moves with me, around me, through me. My suit should be overloading, but somehow it's holding. Storm lands on my shoulder, adding his own electrical signature to whatever impossible thing is happening. Through our combined connection, I feel something vast and alien and beautiful brush against my consciousness. Oh, I breathe. This is how you talk to them. I reach the maintenance array, but instead of fighting the charge built up in its circuits, I let it flow through my suit and into the ground. Like Storm does naturally, like the planet itself does through its neural networks. The override panel opens under my hands, and I know exactly which sequences to input. Not from training or Marcus's instructions, but from the patterns dancing in the air around me. Containment stabilizing, Marcus reports, his voice full of wonder. How did you? I stopped fighting the storm, I say, watching the shield's color return to normal, and started dancing with it instead. Storm launches from my shoulder as I finish the sequence, leading me back through the electrical field. But this time, I'm not dodging the energy. I'm part of its pattern, moving in harmony with forces I never truly understood until now. When I reach the shield, Marcus is waiting. His expression through the faceplate is one I've never seen before, equal parts awe and scientific fascination. You connected with them, he says, like Storm does, but how? I look at my hands. still tingling with residual energy. I think they've been trying to teach us this all along. We just didn't know how to learn. Storm lands between us again, but this time it's not to separate. His feathers spark with friendly energy as he looks from me to Marcus and back. Like he's saying, finally, you understand. Think this changes our plans for the defense system? Marcus asks, already pulling up modification schematics on his datapad. I watch the storm dance across the shield bubble, seeing it with new eyes, understanding its rhythms not as chaos but as conversation. Oh yeah, I say, smiling for what feels like the first time in 6 months. I think it changes everything. The next 36 hours pass in a blur of modification work and new discoveries. Marcus and I convert the Wildlife Center into a makeshift lab, its walls covered in a mixture of his equations and my hastily drawn patterns. Storm comes and goes, bringing us pieces of technology from abandoned sections of the colony that somehow perfectly match our needs. It's like he's reading our minds, Marcus says, watching Storm deposit another salvaged power coupling at my feet. Or their minds, or both. Maybe there's less difference than we thought. I hold up my hand, letting small arcs of electricity dance between my fingers, a new trick I'm still getting used to. Ever since the maintenance array, it's like I can feel them thinking. Marcus pauses in his work on the shield modifications. Does it hurt? No, I consider how to explain it. It's more like having a song stuck in your head, but the song is made of mathematics and starlight. He smiles, and for a moment I see the Marcus I used to know, the one who would get excited about atmospheric anomalies at 3 in the morning, who would drag me out to watch magnetic auroras with childlike wonder. You know, he says, returning to the delicate wiring he's adjusting, I spent 6 months trying to communicate with them through pure mathematics. Never occurred to me you could just feel your way through. That's because you think too much. The words come out gentler than I intend. Some patterns you have to experience before you can understand them. Like the pattern of loss and redemption playing out between us now. I don't add. Some things are still too raw to name. Storm returns with another piece of equipment, but this time he seems agitated. He paces the workbench, feathers bristling with borrowed energy. What is it, buddy? I reach for him, then freeze as I feel what he's sensing. Marcus. I feel it too. He's already at the monitoring station. Multiple objects entering the outer atmosphere, big ones. My heart sinks. The corporation ships. 2 days early. His hands fly over the controls. They must have pushed their engines harder than we calculated. I run to the window, Storm joining me. Through the storm-churned clouds, I can just make out the flaring of massive engine burns. Planet Cracker ships, exactly like in the electric being's warning vision. How long until they're in position? Marcus checks the readings. Maybe 3 hours, 4 if the storms delay them. Will the modifications be ready? He looks at our half-finished work. The shield generator's guts spread across 3 tables, the new focusing arrays only partially calibrated. Not even close. We needed those other 2 days. I close my eyes, feeling the electric song in my head shift to something darker, more urgent. When I open them again, Storm is watching me intently. What if, I start slowly, what if we don't need to finish all the modifications? Marcus looks up sharply. What do you mean? The electric beings said they had power, but needed our precision, right? Our technology, I gesture at Storm. But what if we're thinking about it backward? What if instead of trying to modify our tech to work with their power, we modify ourselves to work with their patterns? Rita, he stops, really looking at me now. At the way small sparks dance across my skin, the way Storm and I move in unconscious synchronization. You want to plug yourself into the planetary network. More like, translate for it. I walk to the shield generator's main console. The corporation's ships will be expecting a normal colony defense system, normal electromagnetic patterns. What if we show them something they've never seen before? It's too dangerous, Marcus steps toward me. The amount of power they can channel, it could kill you. Good thing I've got the best Storm guide on Haven Point then. I scratch Storm's chest as he lands beside me. And a pretty decent mathematician to keep the patterns stable. Marcus stares at me for a long moment, and I see him fighting with himself. The scientist in him wants to calculate all the risks, run simulations, test theories. But we don't have time for that anymore. Tell me what you need, he says finally. I smile, feeling the electric song surge with possibility. First, we need to move the shield generator's main control interface outside. Outside, his eyes widen. Into the storm. Can't dance with the lightning if we're hiding from it. I check my suit's power reserves. And Marcus, this time I'm going to need you out there with me. Storm screams his approval as another ship burns through the cloud layer above us. Time to show the corporation what happens when you threaten a world that thinks in lightning. Moving the control interface outside feels like either the bravest or stupidest thing we've ever done. Probably both. The storms are getting stronger as the corporation ships approach, almost like the planet itself is building up to something big. Connection points are secure, Marcus calls over the howling wind. He's finished anchoring the last power coupling into the conductive ground plates we've arranged in a circle around the shield generator. But Rita, these readings. I've never seen electromagnetic levels this high. I stand in the center of our makeshift array, Storm perched on my shoulder. Through my new sensitivity to the electric fields, I can feel the planet's neural network humming with anticipation. They know what we're attempting. They're ready to help. How long until the ships are in position? I check my suit's seals one final time. What we're about to try will either work brilliantly or fry us where we stand. Marcus consults his data pad. 20 minutes, maybe less. They're deploying their mining drones first, standard procedure for clearing any remaining defense systems. I nod, watching the clouds swirl overhead. The geometric patterns are everywhere now, so dense they almost look solid, like the sky is made of crystallized lightning. Remember the plan, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. Once I'm connected, you have to maintain the power flow through the human tech. Keep it stable, keep it focused. I'll handle translating the patterns. He steps closer, close enough that I can see the worry in his eyes through his faceplate. And if it's too much, if the power starts to overwhelm you, then Storm will break the connection. I scratch under the eagle's beak. Won't you, buddy? Storm puffs up his feathers, sparking with borrowed energy. He understands his role perfectly. He always has, probably better than either of us. Rita, Marcus starts, then stops. There's so much unsaid between us, so many apologies and explanations still waiting. But right now, we need to focus on survival. I know, I say simply. Me too, ready to dance with some lightning. He manages a smile. Lead the way, Storm Whisperer. I take my position as the first mining drones enter visual range, their sleek shapes cutting through the clouds like dark stars. Around us, the electrical patterns pulse with something that feels like anticipation. Now, I say, and Marcus starts the connection sequence. The first surge of power hits me like a physical blow. It's not just electricity, it's thought, memory, dreams, all translated into pure energy. For a moment, I forget how to breathe, how to think, how to be human. Then Storm's consciousness brushes against mine, showing me the way, teaching me how to ride the lightning instead of being consumed by it. Power levels at 40% and climbing, Marcus reports, his voice seeming to come from very far away. Rita, your suit's readings are off the charts. Are you? I'm okay, I gasp, though I'm not sure if that's true. Keep going, show me the drones. He adjusts something on his control panel, and suddenly I can see them through the electric being's perception. Dozens of automated mining units, each carrying enough explosive power to crack a small moon. They're beautiful in their way, all clean lines and deadly purpose. But they're also an immune response from a system that sees this living world as nothing but resources to be harvested. Time to show them what a real immune response looks like. Ready? I ask, though I'm not sure if I'm talking to Marcus, Storm, or the vast electric consciousness now flowing through me. The answer comes in all their voices at once. Yes. I raise my hands, feeling the power of an entire planet's neural network at my fingertips. Storm launches from my shoulder, climbing high into the storm. Through our shared connection, I see what he sees, the perfect pattern of attack. The first drone never knows what hits it. A bolt of focused lightning, guided by human technology and planetary consciousness, simply erases it from existence. The others immediately switch to defensive protocols, energy shields snapping into place. But they're designed to defend against normal electrical attacks. Normal storms. This is anything but normal. Holy shit, Marcus breathes as I conduct the lightning like an orchestra weaving patterns that shouldn't be possible. Each gesture sends precisely targeted bolts through gaps in the drone's defenses. Rita, you're actually doing it. I am, we are, all of us together, human, bird, and electric being, creating something entirely new. A defense system that thinks, that adapts, that dances. The drones fall one by one, their remains traced with beautiful lightning flowers as they hit the ground. Above them, the corporation ships are starting to realize something is very wrong with their automated first wave. But we're just getting started. The corporation ships hang in the sky like angry metal gods, their mining arrays glowing with barely contained power. Through the electric being's perception, I can see the crew's confusion turning to alarm. This isn't how their standard planetary acquisition is supposed to go. Second wave incoming, Marcus warns. Bigger drones, military grade. I feel them before I see them. Heavy weapons platforms disguised as mining equipment. Of course, the corporation would have contingencies for resistance. They've probably done this dozens of times before, but they've never faced anything like us. Storm, I call, and he responds instantly, diving through the charged air to show me the attack vectors. The electromagnetic patterns around us shift in response, forming complex geometries that even Marcus's equations couldn't predict. Rita, he says urgently, your vital signs are spiking. The power flow is exactly where it needs to be. I grit my teeth against the burning sensation coursing through my suit. Just keep the interface stable. The military drones open fire, filling the air with projectiles designed to disrupt electrical fields. Smart. Against normal lightning, it would probably work. I let them get halfway to their targets before showing them what planetary consciousness can really do. With a gesture that feels both alien and perfectly natural, I reverse the polarity of the entire defensive zone. The disruption fields collapse in on themselves, taking half the drones with them. The rest scatter, trying to regroup. That's impossible, Marcus mutters, staring at his readings. You just manipulated quantum field dynamics with a hand wave. No, I managed through clenched teeth. We did. As if in response, the electric beings surged through the planetary network, showing me more possibilities, more patterns. Storm screams in triumph, his feathers blazing with power as he dives through the remaining drones, marking targets. But the corporation ships aren't retreating. Instead, they're moving into attack position themselves. Energy spike, Marcus shouts. They're powering up their main mining beams. The beams are designed to crack planets, to tear through crust and mantle like tissue paper. Even with our combined power, a direct hit would. Wait. Through the electric consciousness flowing through me, I suddenly understand something crucial, something beautiful. Marcus, I say, feeling Storm land on my shoulder, sensing the same truth. Remember how you said I manipulated quantum fields? Yeah, but he stops, eyes widening behind his faceplate. No, Rita, you can't be serious. The mining beams work by focusing massive amounts of energy through quantum apertures. I continue, watching the ships align their weapons. They're basically giant energy conductors, which means they're also perfect lightning rods. He's already adjusting the power couplings. But the amount of energy needed to reverse that kind of beam. I feel the electric beings pulse with something like anticipation. Like joy, good thing we have a whole planet's worth then. The first mining beam fires, a lance of pure destruction aimed at Haven Point's heart. Time seems to slow as I raise my hands one final time, feeling Storm's consciousness merge with mine completely. Every lightning bolt, every storm, every electric thought on the planet answers our call. The beam hits our defensive field, and for a moment, everything goes white. Pain lances through my body as we take the full force of a planet cracker into our combined network. Then, with a gesture that pulls power from depths I didn't know I had, we send it back. The quantum reversal travels up the mining beam like a fuse, carrying with it the concentrated fury of an entire world's neural network. It hits the corporation ship's emitter array, and the explosion turns night into day. Warning klaxons scream from the other ships as their companion's front section simply ceases to exist, quantum energy eating it from the inside out. Multiple ships powering up their engines, Marcus reports, his voice shaking with awe. They're retreating. Rita, you did it. But I'm not done, not yet. Through our shared connection, I feel the electric being's desire. Their need to make sure this never happens again. Storm launches from my shoulder as I gather the last remnants of our combined power. Around us, The geometric patterns in the air begin to spin faster and faster, building into something new. "What are you doing?" Marcus asks, but I think he already knows. "Teaching them a lesson," I whisper and release everything we have left. The lightning that fills the sky isn't natural. It isn't even electricity as humans understand it. It's pure consciousness made visible, writing a message in letters of fire that stretch from horizon to horizon. When it fades, the corporation ships are already jumping to FTL, running from something they never expected to find on a resource planet. Intelligence, resistance, unity. I feel my knees give out as the connection finally breaks. Marcus catches me before I hit the ground, Storm landing beside us with concern in his ancient eyes. "Easy," Marcus says softly. "I've got you, it's over." But it's not over. Through the fading connection, I feel the electric being's gratitude, their invitation. Their offer to teach us more, to learn from us in return. "No," I manage, looking up at the clearing sky. "It's just beginning. Recovery takes time. Time to heal from channeling planetary consciousness through a human nervous system. Time to rebuild Haven Point systems with our new understanding. Time to learn what it means to share a world with beings made of living lightning. And time, maybe hardest of all, to rebuild trust between two people who lost and found each other in the storm. The shield modifications are holding," Marcus tells me one morning, about a week after the corporation ships fled. "We're standing on the observation deck, watching Storm play through the geometric patterns that now permanently dance in Haven Point's sky. The electric beings are actually helping maintain them, learning our technology while teaching us theirs. Fast learners," I say, smiling as Storm demonstrates a particularly complex spiral through the energy field. The neural network responds to him like a pond responding to thrown stones, ripples of light spreading in perfect mathematical patterns. "They're not the only ones." Marcus turns to me, his expression serious. "Rita, what you did. What we did, it changes everything. The corporation will tell others about this place, about what happened here." "Good." I hold up my hand, letting small arcs of electricity play between my fingers, a trick that's becoming as natural as breathing. "Let them come. Let them see what happens when you threaten a world that thinks in thunderstorms." He catches my hand, and the electricity jumps between us like tiny stars. We can both feel it now to varying degrees. The whole colony can. It turns out prolonged exposure to the planet's neural network has some interesting side effects. "The electric beings have been sharing more of their history," he says, not letting go of my hand. "They've seen other civilizations come and go, other attempts to mine their consciousness for resources, but we're the first ones who ever tried to talk back. The first ones who learned to dance with the lightning instead of fighting it," I add, thinking of that desperate moment when I first understood the patterns. Storm lands on the railing beside us, his feathers crackling with friendly energy. Through our enhanced connection, I feel his satisfaction, his joy at finally being understood. "You knew all along, didn't you?" I scratch under his beak. "What they were, what we could become together." He preens proudly, and I swear I catch an impression of ancient memories. Generations of his kind, acting as bridges between ground and sky, between flesh and electricity. "The corporation will be back," Marcus says quietly. "Maybe not them specifically, but others like them. There's too much value here for them to ignore." "Let them come," I repeat, but softer this time. "We'll be ready. All of us." As if in response, the neural network pulses with something that feels like agreement, like pride, like hope. "You know," Marcus says, watching the patterns swirl overhead, "we never did figure out what to call them. The electric beings, I mean. Feels a bit impersonal now that we're basically sharing a planetary nervous system. I think about it, feeling the constant song of mathematics and light that plays at the edges of my consciousness. Maybe we don't need to name them. Maybe we just need to learn their patterns, their stories, like learning a new dance." Speaking of dances, he turns to face me fully. "I believe I owe you about 6 months' worth of apologies." "You do," I meet his eyes. "But maybe we can start with one dance instead." I step closer, raising our still joined hands. Above us, the geometric patterns shift in response to our movement, creating a soft light show that feels almost like music. "Remember the maintenance array?" I ask. "When I stopped fighting the storm and started dancing with it instead." He smiles, pulling me closer. "Hard to forget." Storm launches himself skyward as we begin to move together, his consciousness brushing against ours in approval. Around us, Haven Point's new neural interfaces pulse in harmony with the planet's thoughts, creating a symphony of light and electricity that feels like joy made visible. We dance under the living sky, two humans who learn to speak in lightning, while our eagle guides us through patterns older than storms. And somewhere in the electric space between heartbeats, I feel the future taking shape, bright and strange and beautiful, like thunder waiting to be born.